This is my newest addition. Basically, the big difference is just the wiring harness layout and then the USB integration in the software. A lot of you guys wonder what you actually get with the kit. The kit's pretty much everything you need as far as the electronic side for the Holset VGTs. So you're going to get the actual microcontroller. These are IP67. They're submersible up to 1 meter, reverse polarity protected, and circuit protected. So you can just put these anywhere in your engine bay. Then you're going to get the main wiring harness. And then on this connector, this actually is a little bit removable to make it easier to install. You're going to get a pot, toggle switch for the exhaust brake. The pot actually adjusts how much brake you have, and then the USB connector. You're also going to get an autometer sensor, relocation kit, and then an insulating strap. And the strap's actually for the sensor, so you can mount it somewhere on your firewall, anywhere off the motor. If you actually read the manual from Autometer, they say don't mount the sensors on the engine. So if you do, it's going to potentially fail. And then I'll just give you the kit so you can relocate it. You're also going to get the exhaust brake wiring. So all my kits have a second relay. You have a main relay with a fuse. Basically, they just go straight to your positive and negative. You can ground it to your body or straight to the battery. And then you get a second relay. The second relay is actually for the exhaust brake. And what this is designed to do is when you take your foot off the gas, it triggers the relay, and then you give it gas, it untriggers it, and the exhaust brake goes on and off. Depending on which engine you have, if you have a 98 to 02, this one pin connects to your ECU, and then the ECU triggers the relay. If you have a 5.9 common rail, you'll have 2 pins connected to ECU, which will trigger the relay. And then if you have like a P pump or something else, then I use the same one I use as a common rail. You just have to connect it to a momentary switch instead of an ECU. So for me, I'm just connecting it straight to my 12 volts, which will simulate basically your foot being off the accelerator. And then when you come to it, you're going to have this program. The program's real simple. Basically, all you're going to do is you're just going to connect it to your laptop. Once you connect it to your laptop, it's going to give you a COM port. You connect to it. Once you connect to it, it'll say if it's operating or not, which is right here. They give you the firmware version, and then you have your configuration, monitor, and then diagnostics. So when you do diagnostics, you get 2 different calibrates. One's for like the old style VE series, and then now the new VG series. So depending on which turbo you have, you just click which one you got. Span test, it does just that. It does a span test, so it like sweeps through the whole range. You eventually want to have a graph down here, so basically from 0 to 100%, and then you'll have the load, so you can actually monitor the health of the turbo. You'll be able to see how much force, if you have a lot of soot, stuff like that, you'll be able to see it. Then you're also going to have your Fahrenheit and Celsius temperature, your actual position, commanded position, the load. Even though it says 48% load and VGT is not moving, it still requires some amperage, and that's pretty much what you're measuring. And then the engine RPM. So once you click on span test, you're going to watch here. If it's off by 1 digit, it's fine. But what you're looking for, just be way off. If you actually take the actuator off and move the gear, slap it back on there, it'll actually say 60% and then 20% once it tries to do a span test. So again, click on that so you can see what's going on. Yeah, once I get the graph actually built into the program, it'll make a lot more use out of it. And then for the calibrate, like I said, all you gotta do is hit calibrate. It's gonna say it's calibrating, and then you kind of just wait till it's done, and then you're back to normal. And then to see what it's actually doing to the turbo. So you can actually remove your actuator off the turbo. Doesn't matter where that gear is positioned. Reinstall it, and then click on calibrate, and it's going to recenter itself. Alright, so let's get to the config. Now this is real simple. So what you're going to do is you're going to drop that menu. Now this is so in case you want to run a different sensor. So if you have a 15 pound, 30, 50, 60, 75, or 100, you just select whatever the value of the sensor is. I supply a 60 pound sensor, but if you're going to use this like on a car or like a Durham, not Duramax, but like a Humvee motor, I can't remember the model it is, something where they want 15 to 20 pounds, then you can use a different sensor, and then it'll change the whole dynamic of how fast it actuates. It gives you more data. So the smaller the sensor, the more data you can see. And then you have your starting position. You're starting in your ending position. is exactly what it is. So if you come down to an idle, how far do you want to be within a travel? So 0 is your exhaust brake and 100 is wide open. Out of that travel, you're going to want to be at 20%. And then 60%, same thing, it's going to be the end. And then your travel rate is actually how fast you're going to go from your start to your ending position. So this is just how fast you're getting there. So if you imagine this is the distance, this is the time. And then your exhaust brake starting position, this is where you want your exhaust brake to come on. So like I was saying before, you have the knob and a toggle switch. So if you turn the knob all the way to the left, and if you look right here, I have 50%. Might not be able to see it with the camera. But it's at 50%. So if the exhaust brake kicks on, you can slowly turn this knob and it'll go from 50 to 100%. But if you want to have more control over the brake, you can put, let's say, 80%, 90%, whatever it is. And if that knob's all the way to the left, it's going to do the same thing. It's just going to change the span. So whatever this percent is, you go from there to 100. And 100 being all the way to the right. And then you're going to have your engine RPM configuration here. That's how many pulses per revolution. You're going to have a couple different ranges. And then you'll have pull up, pull down, or pull up, down, off. You got a high, low. And this is so you can pretty much, hopefully, attach it to any type of RPM pickup. You'll be able to configure it. And then your exhaust brake disengage. What this is designed to do is, so the toggle switch, all it does is enable the function. So now I got the exhaust brake on, so I can start turning the knob. So this is all it does, is it turns the function on. So if you turn the function off, it no longer works. But I'm using this for my boost pressure. It goes back to being a boost pressure. And then, like I was saying before, you have that other relay. When you disconnect that relay, so you have that momentary switch, or you're giving it gas. So if you have a common rail or BP44 engines and you're giving it gas, that relay is not going to be on. So regardless if this is on or off, it's going to go off that boost pressure sensor. But once that relay is triggered, then you can now adjust the exhaust brake because the exhaust brake's on. But then if this is off, regardless if that relay is on or off, this thing's going to be doing its thing. Also incorporated a cold start assist. So what this is going to do, I'll show you. So now I have 0 engine RPMs, and what happens is the exhaust brake goes to 100%. And what this is going to do is it's going to increase your back pressure while your engine's cranking. Once your engine fires up, you'll have engine brake, engine RPM disengage. So you can set this to, I don't know, like 400. And then once your engine RPMs get up to 400 RPMs, it's going to disengage the cold start and then go back to its normal position where it's not on. And then this is for a lot of the guys that do swaps with 12 valves and other engines that don't have a check engine light, but your car originally had one or your truck originally had one. This is also triggered off that. So now you'll have an output so you can connect that to your check engine light, and the check engine light will come on every time your engine's idling. Engine's turned off, and then once you fire it up, then check engine light comes off. Alright, so now we got the little monitor. So you got your boost pressure, your actuator load, engine RPM, turbo RPM, VGT temp, and then you got your feedback position. So using my adjustable pot, kind of show you a little bit more what's going on here. So my starting position is 20%. I'm going to end at 60%, and I'm going to use 30 pounds of travel, 30 pounds of boost to go from start to end. So if you click on monitor, you'll see I have 0 pounds of boost. My starting position here is 19. If it's off by 1, that's fine. It's just the way the data divides the information to get the actual percent out of it. So 19%, and I'm going to use 30 pounds of boost to go all the way over to 60. can see once I hit 30, I stop at 60. And if you keep making boost, it holds that position. So the way these turbos work is there's actually a spot, and it's somewhere between 50 and 70%, that once you go past there, it acts more like a wastegate. And what it's trying to do is actually slow down the turbine so you don't overspool it. So really, anything past 75-80%, I mean, you're just going to be dumping a lot of smoke. You're not going to really be able to light it too well without a lot of heat. So now you guys see it takes, the way I have it set up, 30 pounds of boost to travel from 20% to 60%. If you come back over here, let's go ahead and change that from, let's do 15, do 80, and then you can do 15 pounds. And you'll be able to see the difference. So like again, it's at 14. Like I said, if it's one off, that's fine. So I'm going to go from 14, 15-ish to 80%, and I'm going to use, what did I say, 15 pounds of boost. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much it. I mean, the software is real simple. I mean, you can pretty much figure it out if you just tinker around with it. The monitor's really good for diagnosing issues. So if you're trying to figure out why you got high drive pressure or something's not working and your boost pressure is not going up, well, if the boost pressure is not going up, then the VGT position is not going to move. So you can kind of correlate them two together. Yeah, like I said, so you got your USB, you got two lights on here. Probably can't see that red one too much, but there's a green and a red one. The green one is transmitting data, well, receiving data from the controller, and the red is actually transmitting the data. So if you connect to it, some computers have multiple COM ports. So if you connect to, let's say, COM 1, you had 2 or 3 or 4, and you hit connect, and these aren't illuminating, especially the red one, then that's the wrong COM port. Connect to another one until at least the red one starts going. Now if you get a bunch of red blinks and a green's not coming back, well, that means something's broken in the harness. Either the wire got disconnected somewhere, disconnector's not connected, the actual controller's not connected, or there's no power going to the controller. So basically it's not receiving a signal back. So there's a little bit of a way you can actually diagnose what's going on. But yeah, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. The harness is really well designed. It's all corrugated tubing. You got high temperature insulation right here. As far as extra wires that are actually going to be on the controller, you're going to have an accessory on. So what this one does, it goes straight to key on. So you want key on. Whenever you have the key on, you put it to run, and it's actually going to power the controller. You're also going to have another one. This one's going to go to RPM, so basically you just got to tap it into your RPM pickup, whether it be an alternator or whether it be a crank sensor, cam sensor. You just got to be able to measure pulses and know what the pulses are so you can actually calibrate it. Like I said, so you're going to get the relocation kit, the sensor, and then a securing strap. Now, these straps are a little bigger, so you're going to want to put something around the sensor, like Velcro or something just to grip it, fill up a little bit of void. And then the connector. I know a lot of guys have a hard time finding these, but these are actually the correct connectors, so they slide right in there. And then you'll have the lock so you can secure it. And then you got the right pickup, so you'll be able to connect the RPM pickups to the turbo. Yeah, if you got any questions, feel free to call me or email me or text me. I have my Facebook page and then, of course, YouTube. Thanks.